Merry Christmas, Ron Sexsmith.
Hey, Mike, Merry Christmas.
How does it feel, Ron, to be a hit maker? You hit number one on the iTunes holiday song chart. I got so many questions, but how does it feel to be the hit maker, Ron Sexsmith?
Well, that's a first for me. I'd never been number one at anything, maybe potato sack race once or something like that. But I mean, I was in England when I found out, when I got the news, and it was very exciting. And I probably wasn't number one the next day, but, or maybe it was a couple of days. I don't know how long it lasted, but it was very, I mean, it took long enough, didn't it? So,
Well, better late than never, but I always say cream will eventually rise. It might take a little bit of time, but cream will eventually rise.
well, it's my most covered song, so I think it was inevitable that somebody would do it, and it would create some kind of buzz. I mean, it was funny when when I first heard about it, I got an email, a random email from the producer of it, and I just put it on. He sent me a file, and I didn't tell my wife. She was in the next room, so she heard this guy sing and she didn't know who it was. And then all of a sudden, the unmistakable Stevie Nicks comes on, and it was a real sort of oh wow kind of moment. And yeah, so I was just hugely flattered and honored that they just decided to do my little song.
Well, now we're going to get the people who are living under a rock and say, "What are we talking about? Ron Sexsmith, Stevie Nicks, the song went to number 1. What's going on?" Let's, Toronto Mike, we like to get in the weeds a little bit, get a little granular, but the song we're talking about is called Maybe This Christmas, and the version that went to number 1 is a duet with not just Stevie Nicks, but former Philadelphia Eagle NFL player Jason Kelce. So they do a duet. So I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of
Yeah.
questions to get the detail, but I'm going to go back if you don't mind. Like, take us back to 2002, I suppose, and tell us about, writing Maybe This Christmas and maybe the album, because the album's called Maybe This Christmas. Give us like a 101 on when you wrote this song and what compilation it was released on and all that back in the early 2000s.
Well, the song was actually written, I think, in 1999. It was written on Christmas Day. It was, I mean, Christmas can be really hard for some people. There's family issues and this and that, and my family life was a bit strained at the time, and I was hoping that it would be a good one. Because we've all had, you know, magical Christmases, or you know what I mean, like Christmases that seem more special, and then you'll have a whole bunch in a row that just sort of come and go, and they don't really leave an impression. So it was that hope that this Christmas would be something more special or something. So I wrote the lyrics, came really, really quickly, but then I didn't really know what to do with the song until I was signed to Network Records in America, and they were doing this compilation, and they asked me, if I had something. So I went to the studio with my buddy Don Kerr, and we made the version that you may know, and it's just me and Don playing on it. It's very sort of amateur hour, and but then lo and behold, it became the title track for this tribute album, which kind of took me by surprise. And then almost immediately we started getting, uh, you know, placements for it, like in on a show called The OC, and different television shows were using it. And then it's just every year it's been like an evergreen, no pun intended, that it just keeps sort of the gift that keeps giving. Yeah.
I love the fact you wrote it on Christmas Day because I always hear about these iconic Christmas songs that we're inundated with at this time of year. And they're written like in LA in July or something in like a 110-degree Fahrenheit day. But this is authentic. You wrote this on Christmas Day.
Yeah, and the thing is, I had the music written even before that, like years before, but I just assumed it was an instrumental. And I just I was just playing around with it, and like I say, the lyrics came really fast, and it was kind of my, I guess, my own Christmas present to myself on that particular Christmas. Um, yeah, I mean, the song means so much to me, that I think it just really, for some reason, for a lot of people, I think it connects, or it resonates because of how difficult Christmas can be, and there's a lot of fluffy Christmas songs about silly things and that, and I think it's nice to have one that's, I mean, it's a hopeful song, but it's also, I think people can relate to feeling estranged from folks and family, or being away far from home. So, so anyway, I feel kind of lucky that I managed to put it all together.
So you mentioned earlier that this compilation from Network Records is called Maybe This Christmas, but was that a surprise to you? Like when you found out they were going to name the compilation after your recording, or were you, I don't know, were you like, did you have a role in that somehow beyond writing a great song?
I don't even think they told me. I think it just came out, and my publisher told me or something. And it was exciting because I mean, Coldplay's on there. I think I can't remember who all was on. I think Bare Naked Ladies maybe are on there. But it was just, I just couldn't believe they picked my song. And I was at this, that was at a very exciting time in my career, because I was sort of getting a bit of a lift by Coldplay, who they had kind of picked me up and took me on the road with them. And I started having my first success, even in Canada, with the CDs I was making. I was getting, lots of play on much more music and this and that. So it was an exciting time, and that was just one of those little added things that made it special.
And they ended up, this became a series. Like, so it's not just a one-off
Yeah.
compilation album released in 2002, but they put out one in 2003. They put out another in 2004. Like, this is a series of 3 holiday compilations.
Yeah. And it's like I say, I mean, it gets covered. It's been done in so many different languages and this and that. So, when you write a Christmas song, I mean, I don't know if Irving Berlin, when he was writing White Christmas, ever imagined it was going to be this thing. He probably wrote his in July in LA or something. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, you kind of hope that it'll be one that people gravitate towards, and I think too, the melody of it. Uh, for the longest time, I didn't really know what words could go with it, and when it almost feels like a no-brainer. I don't like the music just without the lyrics sounds like a Christmas song. So um, yeah, I'm just happy I wrote one. I mean, I did write a few other Christmas songs that did nothing at all, but this one seems to have some staying power.
So we'll dive into just a little deeper into the actual version that went to number 1 on the holiday song chart. And like you said, I mean, this is a first for you. A singer-songwriter, by the way, because as you know, on Toronto Mike, I talk to many a singer-songwriter, and the name Ron Sexsmith comes up so often. I wonder if your ears are burning in Stratford there, because you are sort of you're the singer-songwriter that so many Canadian, and not just Canadians, but singer-songwriters look to and say, you're the inspiration, you're the model, they love your stuff. So I feel like your critical praise in this country has never been matched, never been in sync, if you will, with your commercial success. So I feel like that you hitting number 1, this is the moment, like better late than never.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just finishing up my 18th album, so maybe it can ride on the coattails of that. Maybe it'll.
That can't hurt, man.
No, I don't think it can hurt at all. And we were trying to find a way to reach out to Jason Kelce actually and thank him for doing it. I actually thought his voice was really nice. He sings in a very unpretentious way and a nice round tone. So if I can figure out how to thank him, I will. Or Stevie is too.
Unbelievable. It's like you're getting some of that Taylor Swift heat, right? Because as you know, we shut down the city when Taylor comes to town. Like, there's nothing bigger on the planet when it comes to pop culture. You got Taylor Swift dating current NFL player with Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce, Jason Kelce. I'm going to ask you about it in a moment. Retired now, but he's one of the voices with Stevie Nicks on the cover that went to number 1. A little housekeeping before we dive into that version, which is to let the listenership know there is a Ron Sexsmith episode of Toronto Mike, and I'm going to read the description I wrote at the time. So we recorded Ron in September 2021, and here's what I wrote. In this 914th episode, so everybody go to episode 914 to hear the ongoing history of Ron Sexsmith. But Mike chats with Ron Sexsmith about working with Kurt Swinghammer,
Mhm.
Bob Wiseman, Daniel Lanois, meeting Elvis Costello, Paul McCartney, Ray Davis, Leonard Cohen, seeing a UFO. Holy smokes, got to go back to that, and so much more. So episode 914 is where you go if you want the deep dive with the career, the wonderful career of Ron Sexsmith. I got a note from Kevin Glue who wants me to tell you that you are his all-time favorite songwriter.
Oh wow, that's nice.
Do you hear that a lot? Like, do you hear people will be like, Ron, because he also said that it's awesome that you're coming back to Toronto Mike, but for this Christmas spectacular. But do you hear that a lot? And how do you feel when somebody comes up to you and says, "Now it's not Paul McCartney, it's not Keith Richards, Mick Jagger, it's not Bob Dylan. You, Ron Sexsmith, are my favorite songwriter."
I do. I mean, I hear it. I don't. It's always you don't really believe it, when they say that. But I mean, I hear it mostly, I guess, when I'm on tour and you meet people after the show and they'll tell you stuff you would never get to hear otherwise. This song was used at so and so's wedding or something. Or this song, uh, you know, changed my life. Or I mean, it's amazing because obviously I write these songs mostly for my own head. If I'm feeling a certain way, I'm trying to figure stuff out, and and I do try to keep it sort of universal so that other people can relate to it. But I mean, I'm not good at anything else. This is this one thing that I do, and I'm not even exaggerating. So this songwriting is I pour everything into it. I pour, all my emotions, everything into it, and I do the work. So I'm really glad that some people are taking notice of this, and I'm just lucky to have a career. I mean, this album I'm working on now is my 18th full length record, and that's insane.
And
So
when does
yeah,
that come out? Like, when can people hear that?
well, they're just getting ready to mix it. And I think they're going to be adding, I just spoke with my producer today, actually. He's over in the UK, but he's talking about adding strings. And so I'm really excited to hear what he adds to it. But they're talking like May. But it seems overly optimistic, but May would be amazing. That would be the fastest turnaround, I think, of my career.
Well, you're getting better at this, and you gotta strike while the iron is hot.
Yeah. Well, they are aware of all that idea too with the song and yeah. So I hope we can make that happen. I mean, we working on the artwork as we speak too. So I hope I can get it out by May or early summer.
So this version that went to number one, Jason Kelce and Stevie Nicks, it's from there's a annual Philadelphia themed holiday album that Jason puts out called A Philly Special Christmas Party. And this, of course, is this duet, big hit. So I have multiple questions, but one is, have you noticed since this song broke, have you noticed that American outlets are wanting to talk to you? Has there been like an increase in U.S. publications saying, hey, I need to talk to whoever wrote this wonderful Maybe This Christmas?
Um, Wow, I did a Zoom last week with a journalist, but I can't remember if he was from America or not. But it hasn't it hasn't
Okay.
really happened. I mean, I was hoping that because often I'd say about 80% of people, whenever they hear a song sung by someone, they're not thinking who wrote it. You know what I mean?
So
And
true.
that's you're kind of in the shadows when you're a songwriter, unless you're a singer-songwriter. So I think I'm happy that the people involved in this record have put it out there that I wrote the song, or that Jason and Stevie covered a Ron Sexsmith song, and I'm sure a lot of people are going, who's Ron Sexsmith, and why should I care? But but hopefully, I think a lot of people do know that I wrote this one. Same way that people know Irving Berlin wrote White Christmas, right? Because it's when I see it on YouTube, when someone covers it, just someone in their house somewhere, it'll always say covers Ron Sexsmith's Maybe This Christmas.
Right.
So I'm happy about that. But maybe more people will ask me. I don't know. We'll see.
Did you know the name Jason Kelce before you heard this cover of your song?
Well, I only knew about him through the Taylor Swift connection, because obviously Taylor Swift is front page news, everything she does, and I'd heard that she was dating Travis, and then I remember seeing some stuff on television where they were in the box, and they were Jason was there too, and but I'm not a sports buff, I mean, my son is a huge football fan. I think he was probably more intrigued, initially that I was. But I mean, we just watched the Jason documentary. That was very eye-opening, and he just seems like a really sweet person. They both do. And they're from Ohio, which is where my wife's from too, so she
Oh.
feels a connection. But no, I mean, I it just came right out of left field, and but obviously, yeah, that we have the sort of 6 degrees of Taylor Swift thing going on with
Yeah, you
with
really have to like to not know about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and then Jason. You kind of have to be somebody who unplugs from any
yeah.
form of media, be it mainstream or social. Like that's one of those things where it's in the zeitgeist, and if you're at all plugged in, you can't really miss it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I am plugged in. I don't have a cell phone or anything, but I obviously have a laptop that I'm talking to you on now. And and there's just being in this biz that I'm in, you kind of sort of have to keep up with things a little bit, I try to, although uh, you know, I still mostly listen to vinyl, and I don't I like to be in my own little world as much as possible.
Kind of remarkable that in 2024, as it comes to an end, that you're still without a mobile device.
Mm.
That's amazing.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel I don't want to sound boasting about it, but for me, I'm not really a phone person. I have a landline. I'm afraid that probably someday I'll go to use my landline and they'll say, "Oh, you can't use these anymore," like the phone booth or something, and then I'll be forced to get one. That may happen. I mean, the world is changing so fast. I read the other day somewhere that they're talking about getting rid of passports and just using face recognition. That scares me. I think that might make me stop going anywhere after that. But yeah, I am a bit of a stegosaurus, in this world, and but I like it that way.
Yeah, and again, I got you on a Zoom, so you're not
Yeah.
too much of a Luddite because here you
You
are.
remember the first Zoom we did? I don't know if you remember. I had the hardest time logging on. I remember seeing you and not figuring out how to get the sound working, and so I've gotten a little better with
You've
that
come a
now.
long way, baby.
Thank you.
So, just so I have a little more detail on this version that went to number one with Jason and Stevie. So, and I don't know how it works in the music world. You'll tell me right now, but can anybody cover your music and not tell you? Do you have to approve? Like, I don't know, can anybody just decide I'm going to cover a Ron Sexsmith song and you'll just find out when it's on the radio or something?
Well, they have to go if it's a commercial thing, if they're doing it on a record, or if they're doing it, or if it's a TV show wants to use it, they have to go through my publisher, which is Sony, but they don't have to go through me. I mean, sometimes the Sony will write me and say, hey, we had this request for this or that song to be used for this purpose or that movie, and they'll ask me if I approve, and 99% of the time I'll say yes. If they
Right.
want to use it for the Trump rally, I'll say no or something like that. But in general, I'll say yes, you can use it. So it's like but they don't have to tell me. And there's a lot of people who do my songs on YouTube that they don't have to tell Sony or me. They're just gonna.
Right.
But I appreciate it when they say who wrote it. At least, right? So
Okay, so Sony, for example, would have got a request for the OC to use your version of this song,
yeah.
maybe this Christmas. And but did Sony say to you, "Hey, Ron, is it okay if the OC airs your song, or they don't have to? Do they give you that courtesy for the OC specifically?"
I They don't have to. Usually, again, I'm usually the last person to know, or my manager will tell me. But I don't know. I know how it works that way. But the
Right.
thing is, yeah, these songs, they're out there and people want to do them, and it's just flattering. I mean, I can't really imagine ever turning anything down.
Right. Maybe when R. Kelly wants to do a remix of maybe this Christmas or something. Okay. So
Exactly.
when in the chain of things, like when do you get notified? You mentioned the producer sent you the file. Was that like a courtesy? out of respect for you as a songwriter to maybe to, hey, what do you think? This song has just been covered by Jason Kelce and Stevie Nicks. Is that when you learned this was happening?
Yeah, and the producer, I'd met him before. I did a show in New York at the City Winery there, and where there was a choir, a men's choir, and they asked me, they wanted to back me up on a Harry Nilsson song that I'd recorded called Good Old Desk. And apparently this fellow was in that choir, but I didn't, this was quite a long time ago, so I didn't remember him. So he would have been the one who made the request to Sony about the song. So he just out of courtesy to me sent me a cold email one day saying, I thought you should know about this. We're pretty excited. And he said that Jason really, the song really meant a lot to him lyrically. And so, yeah, it just came out of nowhere. And I mean, I think I was the one that told my manager about it because he hadn't heard because I don't think that it had been announced yet. So, and that's a first. Generally, I'm the last to know. So.
Exciting times in the for Ron Sexsmith here. Now, how did it feel, Stevie Nicks? I feel like we've talked a lot about the football guy, okay, but
Yeah.
Stevie Nicks is on this song singing this duet. Like, how does it feel to have Stevie Nicks go to number one with one of the songs you wrote?
Yeah, nobody talks about her football career, right? Like, um, she's amazing. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Fleetwood Mac. I was a really big fan of Christine McVie too, especially. I just loved her voice. But I mean, it's amazing that to be kind of like I haven't met Stevie, but to now have a kind of an affiliation with her in a roundabout way, it's amazing. I mean, it's funny because before I found out about this, I just seen her on Saturday Night Live doing a song, brand new song that was really powerful. Um, it's just an honor, because she's like no slouch in the songwriting department and the poetry and all that. To have her voice singing my lyrics is just hugely rewarding. But yeah, I mean, we're going to lose so many of those. I don't mean Stevie, but all these great bands that we grew up with. It's scary to think in 10 or so years we may lose some, and so it's just nice to get in a bit of that or to rub elbows in a way with these people.
Absolutely. Earlier, I alluded to the fact that the name Ron Sexsmith comes up early and often on my podcast, Toronto Mic'd. There was a recent visit from Tim Bovaconti. Were your ears burning during my chat with Tim Bovaconti?
Yeah, I listened to a bit of, yeah, I mean, Tim, we go back a long ways. We haven't, I mean, Burton kind of stole them from me. We haven't really played in a long time in a band. But yeah, I mean, I was happy that he was on your show. And did he say nice things about me?
Are you kidding me? You came off like you're saintly because he met you on a bus and he invited you to sing at his girlfriend's birthday
Birthday.
party. And you had one question: will there be cake?
Well, obviously, I'm a cake lover, just yeah. I mean, well, it's funny. I remember that very well, but he's sort of confusing two different stories because I did meet him originally on a bus, and when I was still, I think I was still a courier, and he was doing whatever he was doing. But when another musician sees a musician with a guitar on his back, it's almost like two dogs. They want to sniff each other or something like that. So we could see each other. We kept seeing each other on the bus, and then I remember at a certain point he asked me if I would open for his band, which was they were called the Love Cows. So I went and did that. And this was way before I had a record deal or anything. But then years and years later, like 2000 or something, I was walking along Danforth and he came by me on his bicycle. And that's when he'd asked me. And it was interesting because I went to this party. I didn't really know him. And there was another fellow named Maury LaFoy there, an amazing bass player, played with, Jan and Colin James, all these people. So I get to this party and they'd learned my song. And so Tim and Maury backed me up. And at the end of this, we did a few songs. And at the end, I said, I'm just about to go on tour. Would you guys want to be my band? And so they were my band for the next, while Tim was in my band right up from 2001 till 2013.
Right.
I had different bass players because they all kept exploding. But then, yeah, so but Tim, we're both big music lovers, obviously, and so many of my favorite moments with Tim on the road were on the tour bus listening to music and DJing and, oh, have you heard this? Have you heard that? And he's just a really great guy, and he's self-made, you know, he's did it all on his own.
Can you hear a Guess Who song the same way ever again?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've seen Tim with Burton a number of times, and with Randy and Burton, and you got to hand it to those guys. I mean, so many great songs, and it's just and it's you know, for me to see him up there with those guys, it makes perfect sense because you know it's in his DNA, all that music, and I can't think of anyone more sort of deserving of that, you know. So
Beautiful. I got a great question that came in from Jim Romanko. He says,
okay.
"Hi Ron, I noticed that you have returned to eclectic UK indie record label Cooking Vinyl for your two most recent albums. How did this come about? Also, nice photo on their website. Where was it taken?"
Oh, I don't know. I've never been to the website. I wonder what photo that is. You have it there? No. But
No, I don't.
I'll go have a look. But yeah, I mean the Cooking Vinyl, I was on their label for my album Blue Boy back in 2001. And then, you know, somehow we bounced around on a few different labels between then and now. And so when I can't remember which album, it might have been The Last Ride or Hermitage, where we found out they were all still there, and a lot of the same people that I worked with back in 2001 were still there. So it was really nice to reconnect with them. And I feel like I have a home. I feel like I have a real it feels secure. Like they survived the whole downslide of the music industry, and they're still, you know what I mean? They're still a thing. So, and they seem like having me on their label. So I hope I can. I don't know how many more records I'm going to do, but I hope that they'll be my peeps. You know.
Well, you're just warming up. You only hit number one last month, so you're just cook. You're starting to cook. You're cooking vinyl. You're starting to cook with gas here, Ron. So
Wow. Well, I'll take your word for it. Thanks.
I'm going to close with a poem, and then when I finish this poem, you're going to tell me if you know what poet composed this poem. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. There once was a site named Twitter
Yes.
with a pretty blue bird, and all was well till Musk threw it in the shitter. He dragged it all the way to hell with lies and misinformation, and soon it all went wrong. So now we're here on Blue Sky, where bluebirds all belong.
Is that Shakespeare? I
It's
think.
you're close.
Starts with an S. Yeah. No, I've been sort of weaning myself off Twitter. I'm hoping to leave Twitter next year because it's become a very toxic place. And this Blue Sky, which is very much, it's actually started by the guy who started Twitter originally. And so I've just been sort of investigating, and it seems like a much nicer place. And yeah, so that was my ode to to Blue Sky.
Well, let me say, I'm glad to see you on Blue Sky because I still like I go into for two reasons. I'll pop into Twitter only once or twice a day. I used to be on Twitter all the time. I used to love it so much.
Yeah, it was
But now
fun.
I pop in, yeah, once or twice a day to see. I check notifications because sometimes people ask me questions there, and then I will literally copy and paste down like a promotion. Like I'll be like, "There's a new Christmas spectacular with Ron Sexsmith on Toronto Mike." Then I'll link to it. So it's like I'll promo and I'll check notifications. But I hate it there now. I am thoroughly enjoying the experience, engaging with real people like you and Jim
Mhm.
Romanko on
Yep.
Blue Sky. So I'm glad you're there.
Yeah, and again, it's early days for me, but I'm really enjoying how less stressful it is. And I still, like I say, I'm going to stay with Twitter probably until January or something, and then completely get off it. But yeah, but I've noticed that everyone's just totally abandoning ship over Twitter and coming to Blue Sky. And because I've noticed in my amount of followers is dwindling, you know, because people keep deleting their accounts, you know. But but it's been good. You know, I worked really hard for since 2012 to build a following there. And I've tried to make it a fun place and a kind place. And yeah, I have stupid jokes and all that stuff. And you know, so Blue Sky, I was happy when I went to check it out. I thought, oh, it's just like Twitter. You know, I mean, the way it's set up and everything. So it's very easy to navigate. And but yeah, I'm going to make the leap very soon, I think. So.
Well, we appreciate your punny business on Blue Sky. We got to get Hawksley Workman over there so you guys can duel it out
Yeah.
with your battling puns. But Merry
He's not
Christmas.
there. I thought he would.
Oh,
Sorry.
maybe maybe he no maybe I'm speaking at a school. Maybe I got to check in there and see. Maybe I missed my friend Hawksley Workman. I'm going to check it out. But I will say this to you, Ron Sexsmith, in this order. Congratulations on your number one single, maybe this Christmas, and hopefully there's more success for you in 2025.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for this. I love catching up with you. I do think the next time we talk, it's got to be in person.
Okay.
You're the only person who got two Zooms. I made Ralph Benmergui drive all the way from Hamilton just late last month. So next time in person.
Yeah, because I miss not having that photo with you. Everyone, there's a photo of you in the same location with whoever your guest is. Yeah, so we'll
At
do that
the
next
Toronto
time.
Tree.
Yeah, the Toronto
Absolutely.
Tree.
I
Yes.
miss it too. And then last but not least, Merry Christmas to you and yours. Thanks for being Ron Sexsmith.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me on your show for a second time, and hopefully we'll do it a third time. All right. Okay. Merry Christmas to you and yours.